In the 4th year of our marriage, Adrian's former golden canary returned with a child. He adored that child. He even declared publicly, "Having this son is enough for me," leaving me to face the mockery and ridicule. Later, I aborted our 3-month-old fetus. He, however, grabbed my throat, his gaze savage. "How dare you get rid of my child?" I pushed his hand away, my smile gentle. "You have him. That's enough, isn't it?" At his birthday party, Victoria crashed the event with her son in tow. Ignoring the stunned guests, she rushed to Adrian, tears streaming down her face, a picture of delicate sorrow. "Adrian, please. I'm begging you. Save Leo." Leo was the boy holding her hand. He looked about 4 years old. His face was pale as he clutched Victoria's hand, timidly taking in his surroundings. Adrian set down his wine glass and coolly surveyed the pair, his tone icy. "Why should I save him? He's your son," Victoria said quickly. The crowd gasped, but no one could refute it. The boy's features, though young and tender, were like a miniature version of Adrian, as if cast from the same mold. Adrian, however, sneered, looking down at her. "Just because you say he's my son, you've been gone for 5 years. Who knows if he's not some other man's bastard that you're trying to pin on me?" Victoria's face turned white. She cut him off sharply. "Adrian." But he just smiled. Was I wrong? His narrow eyes were filled with scorn, as if he found her utterly repulsive. But as I watched him, I caught the slight tremble of his eyelashes and the tight clench of his fist. His words were harsh. His heart, however, was in turmoil. Victoria stared at Adrian as if she no longer recognized him. After all, he had once doted on her so much that if she had asked for the stars, he would have tried to pluck them from the sky for her. Now, all he offered was coldness and cruelty. After a long moment, she let out a soft laugh, though her eyes were filled with tears. "Adrian, let me tell you, you are the only man I have ever been with in my life. And Leo is your son. I wouldn't have come back if he hadn't fallen ill, his life hanging by a thread, and I couldn't afford the medical bills. If you don't want to acknowledge him, you could have just said so. You didn't have to insult me like this." Her gaze then fell to the hand Adrian was holding. "Mine." Her eyes grew redder, filled with desolation. "Forget it. You're successful now, happily married. I shouldn't be bothering you, Miss Monroe. I'm sorry." She uttered an apology, but she didn't even glance at me, simply pulling the child towards the exit. But the boy suddenly burst into tears, throwing himself at Adrian's leg and clinging to it tightly. "I don't want to go. I want my daddy. I want my daddy." Looking up, his eyes were swollen and red from crying. He looked pitifully at the tall man and whispered, "Daddy." My heart lurched. I whipped my head around to look at Adrian. I realized he had, at some point, let go of my hand. He was staring at the child, a flicker of unguarded tenderness in his eyes. But Victoria swept the child into her arms, her face a cold mask. "He doesn't deserve to be your father." Then, without a backward glance, she left the ballroom. She arrived like a storm and left just as quickly, her striking figure leaving ripples in the hearts of everyone present. The drama had begun and ended in a flash. The guests were masters of hiding their emotions. The party continued as if nothing had happened. A friend leaned in and whispered, "Do you know that woman?" I glanced at Adrian, who stood a short distance away, and smiled. "I do." Victoria, Adrian's treasured golden canary, the one he had protected and cherished for 3 years. In his youth, Adrian was the resident playboy of our circle. Girlfriends came and went, none lasting more than 3 months. Victoria was the exception. She was his one and only preference. When she entered the entertainment industry, he took over his family's media empire just to protect her and provide her with resources. He visited her on the set of every movie, showering her with care. He personally presented her with every award she won. In front of the cameras, he would look at her with such tenderness, love practically spilling from his eyes. But overnight, Victoria suddenly announced her retirement from showbiz and vanished. Adrian spent a year searching for her, turning the country upside down, but found nothing. A year later, he married me, who had just returned from abroad. Everyone assumed that because I was young and had grown up overseas, I was oblivious to this past. But they were wrong. I knew everything, because I was in love with Adrian. I had been since we were young. For many, many years. Because I loved him. I paid attention. I secretly watched their happiness from the sidelines. And when I heard they had parted on bad terms, I rushed back home to seize my last chance. And luckily for me, thanks to our family's equal standing, I smoothly married him. Our married life was simple but happy. We grew closer. On rainy days, we would both spontaneously drop our work, curl up on the sofa together in the dim light, and watch a movie, whispering about the plot. I would sometimes ask him about celebrity gossip, and he would glance at me coolly before telling me everything. He still wasn't one to smile often, but when I would burst into laughter, he would pull me into his arms. In those moments, our eyes would meet, our breaths mingling. I thought that was love. But now, Victoria's sudden appearance had shattered my beautiful dream. I looked at Adrian and asked softly, "Don't you want to go after her?" He shook his head. "Don't you love her anymore?" I asked again. Adrian froze, as if surprised that I knew of Victoria's existence, or perhaps shocked by my calmness. But he still shook his head. "I stopped loving her a long time ago." His words were firm, but his gaze was evasive. I pressed my lips together, a sudden, sad thought striking me. Sometimes, knowing someone too well is its own kind of pain. For instance, at this very moment, I knew Adrian was lying. He wanted to go after her, and he still loved her very much. After that day, the relationship between Adrian and me turned ice cold. He stopped coming home every night. I saw him less often than entertainment reporters did. I tried asking him about it once. All I got in return was dismissiveness and indifference. Until his friend secretly told me that Adrian had been spending all his time with Leo. He took him to amusement parks, treated him to fancy restaurants, and even threw him a welcome home party. It was grander than mine had been, but only 3 people attended: Adrian, Victoria, and their child. I showed up uninvited, watching from the shadows. A short distance away, Adrian was holding Leo, watching him blow out the candles with eyes full of gentleness. Standing beside him was Victoria. The 3 of them looked like a real family. I felt like I was back to being that little thief from 5 years ago, secretly peeking at someone else's happiness. But I was his wife. Just then, a voice cried out, "Isn't that Adrian? Who's that kid next to him? And isn't that Victoria? When did she come back?" A reporter suddenly popped out, his voice loud, instantly drawing a crowd. It's Victoria and Adrian. Isn't Adrian married? How can he have a child with Victoria? Did he cheat? That kid is at least 5 or 6. Adrian's only been married for 4 years. It's hard to say who the third party is. A swarm of people rushed forward. Adrian's face hardened. He shielded Leo in his arms while fending off the reporter's questions. When a reporter asked about the child's identity, Adrian hesitated for a moment before saying coldly, "No comment." I watched him silently. I suddenly wondered what he was hesitating about in that split second. Was he debating whether to announce Leo's identity, even if it meant the news would make me the biggest joke in town? Would Adrian care? Probably not. Just as I was thinking, a reporter spotted me and shouted, "Isn't that Mrs. Ford? Quick, go ask her." The crowd turned, cameras raised, and surged toward me. Their words were sharp and cruel. "Mrs. Ford, were you aware of Mr. Ford's relationship with Victoria? Whose child is that? Really?" Someone in the crowd shoved me, and I fell hard to the ground. My white dress was stained with dirt. My knee slammed against a rock, and blood started to seep from the wound. The pain made my face turn pale. The reporters were startled. "Stop pushing. Stop crowding." Mrs. Ford fell. The commotion was loud enough to reach Adrian. He frowned, looking at me, and started to walk my way. But just then, the car window rolled down. Leo's pale face appeared, and Victoria leaned out, saying something to him. Adrian gave me one last look, then got into the car and drove away without a second thought. My husband had abandoned me. The ones who protected me were a few girls I didn't even know. They shooed away the reporters and onlookers and carefully helped me to a quiet corner. I wanted to thank them, but one of the girls' faces went white as she gasped. "Mrs. Ford, you're bleeding." I froze and looked down. I only then realized my white dress was stained with blood. Drop by drop, It fell to the ground. A sharp pain shot through my lower abdomen. I suddenly remembered why I had come to find Adrian today. I was pregnant. I had wanted to tell him. But now, it seemed, there was no longer a point. When I woke up, I was in a hospital. I gently touched my abdomen and realized the baby was still there. My mother was talking cheerfully with Adrian. He looked drained, his gaze fixed on me. When he saw I was awake, he gently tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear. "Alara, you're awake." His voice was a little hoarse, as if he hadn't slept. I didn't want to say a word. My gaze was scrutinizing. Cold. Adrian's hand froze mid-air. He forced a smile. "I didn't know you were pregnant." "I'm sorry. But what difference would it have made if he had known? Would he not have abandoned me? If that were true, then all he cared about was this child. Was I supposed to be happy about that?" A wave of bitterness washed over me, enveloping me completely. I turned my head away, not wanting to look at him. Adrian was taken aback. He explained, "Leo has a congenital heart defect. He needs treatment. I'm his father. It's my responsibility to take care of him. But don't worry, I won't let him bother you. You should rest and focus on the pregnancy here in the hospital. He's a good boy. I like him a lot. So, don't you dare lay a hand on him." I understood his unspoken words. I turned my head back and let out a small, soft laugh. "Adrian." He looked up at me, his eyes as calm as the night sky outside, reflecting a soft glow. I pulled my pale lips into a smile and asked, "Do you remember the first time we met?" He nodded, a hint of reminiscence in his eyes. "I remember. At the auction 5 years ago, you wanted to bid on a ruby necklace, but you were late and missed it. You were crying at the entrance. And when I saw you, I sold the ruby to you. 5 years ago, that ruby necklace had been my grandmother's dowry. I wanted to give it to her as a gift, but my flight was delayed, and by the time I reached the auction house, it was too late. Then I received the news that she had passed away. Overcome with grief, I started crying right there at the entrance. So many people walked by. Only Adrian stopped. He asked me, 'Ma'am, is there anything I can do to help you?' I looked up. Under the streetlight, his eyes were so bright, so gentle. A cool breeze swept by, stirring the spring waters of a young girl's heart. Ripples spread, and turned into a sea of love. But that wasn't our first meeting. "Yes," I said. I could no longer hold my smile. I turned my head away, not wanting him to see my bitterness, and just nodded lightly. "I liked you a lot. Even back then. I liked you so much. But, Adrian, you forgot about me, and you forgot our promise. Why are you crying?" I blinked, only then realizing that tears were streaming down my face. Adrian gently wiped them away, his gaze seemingly full of infinite affection. "Alara, what's wrong? Can I help you?" Those familiar words echoed in my ears again. I looked up sharply. The man before me was looking at me, his expression gentle and worried. But for a moment, I saw a slightly younger face, also smiling, looking down at me, crying so hard. "Is there anything I can do to help you?" Adrian remembered it wrong. The first time we met was 15 years ago. He had forgotten me, but I had never forgotten him. At the time, I had just returned to the country for the holidays. I had performed poorly in a piano competition and was hiding in the garden, crying. That's when I met Adrian, who had come to our house to see my older brother. From my brother, I only knew that he was brilliant, the future heir to the Ford Corporation. I had never seen a boy so beautiful. Realizing my own disheveled, tear-stained state, my face flushed, and I cried even harder. He comforted me for a long time. Finally, I managed to sob out. "I didn't do well. Mom said I'm stupid." Adrian smiled. "Competitions are hard. I can't guarantee I'll do well every time either." I was stunned. I never thought this. Genius. My brother always talked about would also worry about tests. Adrian feigned a troubled look. "I'm 4 years older than you, and I can't do it. Doesn't that make me even stupider?" I quickly shook my head. "No, you're not stupid. You're not stupid at all." He grinned. "Then you're not stupid either." I nodded vigorously. "Okay." I knew he was just trying to make me feel better, but my mood lifted considerably. Soon after, my brother found us, slung an arm over Adrian's shoulder, and they left the garden. Watching his retreating back, I don't know where I found the courage. I shouted, "I like you. Can I marry you when I grow up?" He stopped, turned, and gave me a cool glance. His eyes were striking, with a hint of flirtatiousness at the corners. Yet it wasn't offensive. The chirping of the summer cicadas couldn't drown out the sound of my beating heart. He said, "Of course you can." Even though I knew he was just humoring me, I held on to those words for many, many years. So, when I actually married him, I was almost mad with happiness. The person I had loved for so long was going to be my husband, to walk with me through life. How wonderful. It was like a beautiful dream. But I forgot. Beautiful dreams are always fragile. They shatter at the slightest touch. I always felt I was destined for happiness. But, Adrian, why does happiness always feel like walking on thin ice? By the time my mother came up, Adrian had already left. She looked at me and asked cautiously, "Alara, did you and Adrian have a fight?" "A fight. Just a Cold War." I shook my head. My mother subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. "That's good, Alara. The Monroe family isn't what it used to be. Our business now relies entirely on the Fords. You must not fight with Adrian. Don't throw your rich girl tantrums." My mother was supposed to be the person closest to me, but now, coming from her, it sounded like even if Adrian and I had problems, it could only ever be my fault. I looked at her and suddenly let out a small laugh. "Mom, he has an illegitimate son. Am I supposed to tolerate that too?" An illegitimate son. My mother's face fell. "Is the news true?" She placed a tablet in front of me. The top headline screamed, "Breaking. Adrian Ford's secret son exposed." Huge news. Adrian Ford and Victoria rekindle romance. Seen intimately at suburban villa. The photos were sharp. They captured both of their expressions clearly and were timestamped. The earliest was from the day after my birthday party. A night Adrian hadn't come home. He had gone to see Victoria. The most recent one was from this morning, while I was unconscious. Before coming to see me, Adrian had gone to the suburban villa to see Leo. Adrian was right. He really did love Leo. I scrolled through the gossip news, feeling calmer and calmer, even finding it amusing. The angles of these photos were all very tricky, precise. The paparazzi wouldn't dare to take pictures in the Ford family's garden. Only someone living in the villa could. Victoria could, and only she would dare. Was she trying to provoke me? I looked at the bold headline on the tablet and sighed softly. Rekindling a romance. A broken mirror, glued back together. Could it ever be whole again? I didn't believe so. Victoria wanted to use her child to get into the Ford family. She wanted to stir up public opinion, force the Fords to kick me out, and get back together with Adrian. She could dream on. Once the news broke, the internet exploded. The Ford family's PR department acted swiftly and suppressed the story, minimizing the damage. Mrs. Ford summoned Adrian and me to the main house. Her smile was gentle, but her eyes were sharp. "To let things get this messy. Adrian, do you think it looks good? As for that child, your father said to give them a sum of money and send them far away, so they're not an eyesore." She spoke casually, completely dismissing Leo, even though he was her biological grandson. Adrian's face was grim. "But I am his father." Mrs. Ford set down her teacup with a sharp clink, cutting him off. She let out a slow, derisive laugh. "What? Are you thinking of having him formally acknowledged, just to make that bastard half-brother of yours happy?" That bastard half-brother. The only illegitimate son Mr. Ford had ever acknowledged. Adrian's half-brother. "Adrian, there is only one Ford Corporation, but your father has more than one son." Mrs. Ford's last sentence was full of meaning. Adrian's face froze, seeing he understood the gravity of the situation. Mrs. Ford turned her gaze to me, her smile gentle. "Alara, why don't you stay here tonight? I've arranged for a caretaker for you. Better than the ones at the hospital." I nodded, as I was about to go upstairs. Mrs. Ford looked back at Adrian, her voice cold. "Adrian, do not see that woman or the child again. I will handle everything. That is how you take responsibility for your wife, your marriage, and your future children." Hearing this, Adrian whipped his head around to look at me, his expression unreadable. He lowered his head, his voice deep. "Mother, I understand." After Mrs. Ford left, only Adrian and I remained in the vast living room. He didn't speak. I said nothing. In the silence, my mind drifted. I didn't know when it started, But being alone with Adrian had become nothing but endless silence. A cold, hollow silence. A silence that could drive you mad. That could tear your heart to shreds. And then, I heard his voice. Alara, let's go to Skyridge and watch the sunset. I was stunned. Adrian's eyes held a trace of guilt. Alara, since Leo came back, I've focused too much on him and forgot that the public opinion about you is also a kind of harm. I failed to consider your feelings. It's my fault. I'm sorry. Alara, can you give me a chance to make it up to you? The end of his sentence was tinged with a careful hope. So sincere. I looked at him for a long time, as if I truly believed his remorse. Okay. Skyridge was my favorite city, because its sunsets were beautiful. When we were deeply in love, I had mentioned going there together, but he was always too busy, so we never did. I understood. But I never thought that the next time I would set foot in this city, it would be when I no longer loved him as much. He seemed to be in high spirits, packing our bags himself. I sat in the living room, watching his busy back, watching him call the doctor to ask about dietary restrictions, then noting them down. Doctor, I'll remember that. Don't worry. Of course my wife is my top priority. So considerate and gentle, like the perfect husband. For a moment, I almost deluded myself into thinking that Victoria had never come back, that everything between us was still sweet and beautiful. After hanging up, he saw me staring at him blankly and a smile spread across his face. He walked over and wrapped me in his arms. Honey, have you been waiting long? Let's go. I nodded, but just then, the doorbell rang. He opened the door. It was Victoria. She was smiling. Adrian, I brought Leo to see you. But the next second, her smile froze as she saw him holding my hand. You too. Just then, a flower delivery from Dior arrived. The card read, wishing Mr. and Mrs. Ford a happy 5th wedding anniversary. The maid held the card and asked where to put the flowers. Victoria let out a cold, brittle laugh, her face pale and fragile. So this is the day you got married. At that time, I think I was in the delivery room, giving birth to Leo. I didn't want AC section. I wanted to remember the pain of childbirth, as if it was a way to remember you. It hurt so much. I thought I wasn't going to make it. At her words, Adrian's grip on my hand tightened fiercely. It hurt. I frowned slightly but said nothing. Victoria's eyes were fixed on Adrian, red-rimmed, as tears fell one by one. Thinking back, I was so stupid. I was in so much pain I thought I was dying. And you were getting married. You would have your own children. Why would you care about Leo? The people I can't keep. I just can't keep. Forget it. It's all in the past. So sorrowful. So pitiful. Adrian stared at her coldly the entire time, without saying a word. His bangs covered his eyes, hiding his emotions. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm rambling like this. I'm disturbing you. I'll take your father's money and leave here for good with Leo. Adrian, I really do love you. She looked up, her beautiful face streaked with tears, as fragile as a night, blooming serious, beautiful for just a moment, but breathtaking enough to shake one's soul. So, don't you dare expect my blessing. Leo, let's go. This time, Leo didn't cry or make a fuss. He just gave Adrian a disappointed look, his voice small. Goodbye, Daddy. The two of them turned and left, without a moment's hesitation, as if they had truly let go. But this time was different from the party. Adrian chased after them. He let go of my hand and took another woman's. He said, "Don't go." Victoria didn't look back. "And stay as your mistress. Let my child be an illegitimate son. Do you love me or not?" Adrian answered without a shred of hesitation. "No. I love you. And I love Leo." They embraced tightly, like any other pair of lovers in the world. As for me, I was his wife. And, more than that, his obstacle. In the final second before I turned away, I saw Victoria's triumphant smile. She had every right to be triumphant. What I had dreamed of for so long, she had obtained with ease. Having this child is enough for me. In front of the cameras, Adrian announced the child's identity, officially changing his name from Leo to Leo Ford. When the news aired, many speculated whether I would get a divorce. Of course not. Why should I make things easy for Adrian? Why should I grant Victoria her wish? I was Adrian's wife. When I loved him, I didn't want to gain any advantage from him or the Ford Corporation, to prove that my love for him was pure and untainted. But I no longer wanted to love him. I was the wife of the heir to the Ford Corporation. I could use this status to gain benefits I had once only dreamed of, like the position of head of the Monroe Corporation. I sat on the sofa in the living room. Adrian sat opposite me. He tried to take my hand, but I pulled it away. His brow furrowed slightly, but he continued. Leo has health problems. He won't be the heir. The Ford heir can only be our child. I cut him off. I said softly, the Monroe Corporation is holding a shareholder meeting tomorrow. I hope you will represent the Fords and cast a vote for me. Adrian's pupils contracted, a look of shock on his face. This was, after all, the first time I had ever asked him for anything, let alone a request to seize power from my own brother. He looked at me hesitantly. I sighed, my voice laced with a subtle grievance. Adrian, I know my brother is your friend, but under his leadership, the company is getting worse by the day. I can take over. I have the ability to. You're willing to help me, aren't you? With that, I proactively took his hand, my eyes full of hope. It was the first time I had initiated closeness with him since Victoria had reappeared. His body tensed. Then, he agreed. Okay, how wonderful. With Adrian's support, I naturally became the head of the Monroe Corporation. Of course, there was opposition. My brother, for instance. But with a behemoth like the Ford Corporation behind me, what could he do? He was exiled, becoming a leisured, idle young master, which, of course, was more suited to his intellect. Otherwise, the Monroe Corporation wouldn't have fallen into such decline, leaving me with no leverage in my marriage to Adrian. But now, I was taking back the leverage myself. Adrian was willing to support me, to provide his connections, resources, and even money, to help me gain complete control of the company. I suspected it was out of guilt. Otherwise, he wouldn't be driving me to and from work every day. After that day, Victoria seemed to have vanished. He and I returned to how we used to be. Intimate, like we were still in the honeymoon phase. But I knew better than anyone. We couldn't go back. We were already sleeping in separate rooms. Our time together grew more and more silent. Adrian would step away to take call after call. The guilty, panicked look on his face after he hung up told me everything. Our marriage was now as thin as paper, and only the paper remained, ready to tear at the slightest touch. One night, my stomach cramped up. I went out of the room to get some medicine and ran into Adrian coming out of the guest room. He was on the phone, hurriedly getting dressed. It's okay. I'm on my way. He froze when he saw me. Alara, why are you awake? It's nothing. I slowly made my way to the living room. Adrian nodded. Be careful. Then, I clutched my stomach and mumbled an MHM. Adrian went to the door but didn't leave right away. I turned and saw him staring at me blankly. He asked, aren't you curious where I'm going? My stomach hurt, and my expression was tinged with impatience. Not curious. Adrian gave me one last look, then slammed the door shut behind him. The bang startled me. Adrian was angry. But what did he have to be angry about? I had heard the soft, delicate voice on the other end of the line clearly. It was Victoria. Can you come keep me company? I'm a little scared. And it was Leo. Daddy, I miss you. Just 2 sentences. Enough to lure my husband away with ease. And Adrian was angry at me for not caring. What right did he have? How dare he? A fire raged in my chest. My hands trembled as I fumbled for the medicine in the drawer. But I couldn't get the bottle open. I stared silently at the pills the doctor had sorted for me. Red, green, white, purple. Dozens of them. I was the one with pregnancy-induced migraines. I was the one with stomach cramps. I was the one whose legs cramped up so badly I couldn't stand. Why should I have to suffer like this? Why should I suffer for Adrian? Why? Why? And then, I smashed the table. The pills scattered across the floor. Free. I stood still for a moment, then dialed a friend's number. Yes. Schedule an abortion for me. Do it quietly. Don't let the Fords or the Monroes find out. The procedure was scheduled in another province. I told Adrian I was going on a business trip. He was worried and wanted to come with me, but I didn't need to say a word. Victoria easily convinced him to change his mind, because Leo was scheduled for a heart transplant. Of course, he had to be by his beloved son's side. I had a dream. I dreamed of my wedding day with Adrian. Under the crystal chandeliers. I walked in my wedding gown towards him at the end of the aisle. He took my hand and vowed in front of everyone. You are my wife. I will protect you and cherish you until we are old and gray. Protect me and cherish me until we are old and gray. In that moment, I was truly happy, but as I smiled and placed my hand in his, I was plunged into darkness. At the end of the darkness stood a little girl. She had a lovely smile, wore a pink princess dress, and sat on a swing, waving at me. I didn't know her, but I liked her so much. I walked over and sat down beside her. I listened to her talk. She said, "Pink is my favorite color. And I love princess dresses. Isn't it pretty?" She twirled around to show me. So lively and cute. It's beautiful. She smiled proudly. Mommy bought it for me. I froze. For some reason, a wave of sadness washed over me. Your mommy must love you very much. She nodded vigorously. I'm a good girl. So of course mommy loves me super much. She told me many things. Her sweet, childish voice wrapped around me in the darkness. I was no longer afraid. I wished she could stay with me. Just a little longer. But she had to go. I have to go now. I reluctantly let go of her hand. She turned and took a few steps, then ran back and threw her arms around me, whispering, "Goodbye, Mommy. Mommy." I was stunned. I suddenly realized why she looked so familiar. She looked so much like me. She was my child. I wanted to run after her, but she had already turned and was running farther and farther away. No matter how fast I ran, I could never catch up. An immense pain tore through my chest, and I finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. I was once again in complete darkness. She left me with only one sentence. She said, "Mommy, when you're happy, I'll come find you." But happiness, it was gone. A week after the abortion, Adrian found me. His initial rage, upon seeing my pale face, melted into a single, pained question. "Why did you get rid of our child?" I gave him a cool look. I didn't want to have it. It would interfere with my work. Adrian stared at me in shock, as if he didn't recognize me. When he spoke again, his voice was hoarse. "But you used to. You wanted a child of ours so much." Yes, I used to want one desperately. I let out a cold laugh, my eyes fixed on him, and said, word for word, "Didn't you say it yourself? Having Leo is enough for you. Why should you care about me?" Just one sentence. But it made Adrian's face turn instantly white. He wanted to say something, but looking at my calm, almost cold expression, he couldn't get a single word out. When he left, he didn't even dare to look back. He just asked softly, "Don't you love me anymore?" I laughed. It was a soft laugh, but in the quiet hospital room, it sounded jarring. "Of course I love you, Mr. Ford." That was my answer. But the coldness was palpable. Adrian fled. By the time I returned home, it had been 3 months. My body had recovered, and I had the energy to run the Monroe Corporation. When Mrs. Ford found out I had aborted the baby, she threw a fit. But Adrian stopped her. I don't know what he said, but she never bothered me again. That was enough. The Monroe Corporation, under my brother's management, was a mess of bad debts and failed partnerships. I spent a long time cleaning it all up. It was dark by the time I got home. It was a rare early evening for me. As soon as I walked in, Adrian pulled me to the dining table. On it was a steaming bowl of tomato and egg noodles. He looked at me, seeking praise. "Try it. Is it good?" But I took one bite and put down my chopsticks. I called the maid. "Anna, make me another bowl." The maid hesitated, looking from Adrian to me, and asked, "What about this one?" "Ma'am, throw it out." Just then, Adrian said suddenly, "I made this myself." I said calmly, "I know. It's too salty." I tasted it. "It's not salty at all." I smiled, my tone casual. "Then I just don't feel like eating it." I stood up to leave, but Adrian grabbed my wrist. He was gripping it tightly, his shoulders trembling slightly. "Alara, what is wrong with you?" I turned to look at him, my smile widening, trampling on a sincere heart. "I learned it from you." Adrian's face turned ashen, like a crumbling ruin, ready to collapse at the slightest breeze. No one cared. I didn't care. I used the Ford Corporation's connections and resources to turn the Monroe Corporation around, bringing it back from the brink of collapse. Now, when people talked about the marriage alliance between the Monroe and Ford families, it was no longer about dependence. It was a partnership of equals. I was a perfect wife. I was the most outstanding hostess for the Ford family, and the head of the Monroe Corporation. At galas, Adrian and I would walk arm in arm, the picture of intimacy, like any loving couple. In front of the cameras, a reporter asked how we planned to spend our weekend. I was about to answer, but Adrian beat me to it. We're planning to go to Skyridge to watch the sunset. I was stunned. The reporters were already sighing with admiration. Mr. Ford is so romantic. I smiled and didn't object. But as soon as the cameras were gone, the smile vanished from my face. I stared at Adrian. He just smiled. Alara, we didn't get to go on our anniversary. Let's make up for it. Okay. Didn't you say Skyridge was your favorite city? His gentle thoughtfulness died under my increasingly icy gaze. Why didn't you tell me beforehand? Adrian's expression froze. He reached for me. I moved away. A silent standoff ensued. He finally conceded. His head bowed. I just wanted to surprise you. I scoffed. We're both adults. We both have things to do. Did you know I have a very important meeting scheduled for Saturday? Whatever the loss is, I'll cover it. Please. Just spend some time with me. Alara. We haven't gone out in so long. His voice broke at the end, as if he were truly pitiful. But the one who betrayed me, who betrayed our marriage, wasn't that him? What was he so upset about? What was he so sad about? I looked at him, unable to muster even a sliver of a smile, feeling utterly exhausted. Adrian, is this fun? Is playing the part of the devoted lover fun? I'm tired of playing. Victoria might like it. Go find her. His hand trembled violently. His shoulders slumped, and his eyes fell. But he couldn't hide the overwhelming sense of defeat. I'm not playing a part. Perhaps my indifference had provoked his stubbornness. Or perhaps he was genuinely remorseful. But I didn't care anymore. I'll go on Saturday. Seeing the surprise in his eyes, I added calmly, but I want to win the bid for this piece of land. It was a risky bid. It was the first step in taking the Monroe Corporation to the next level. I couldn't afford any risks. The Ford Corporation, however, could, though it would come at a price. The light that had just lit up in Adrian's eyes dimmed again. But he finally nodded. I'll help you. I let out my first genuine smile of the day. Looking at Adrian, I suddenly laughed. Today, I finally understood something. What? I smiled but didn't answer him. What was it? Men are all gluttons for punishment. When you don't love him, he loves you the most. Skyridge, despite its name, was actually a mountain city. It was spring all year round, with breathtaking scenery. Walking along the mountain path, a gentle breeze blew, as if clearing some of the gloom from my heart. By the time we reached the summit, it was still too early for sunset. Adrian walked beside me, talking. I couldn't be bothered to respond, so he eventually fell silent. I was used to the silence. Adrian wasn't. That was his problem. At the summit, there was a temple. It was empty. Only a statue of a goddess was enshrined there. On the rope bridge outside the temple hung countless wind chimes, inscribed with the deepest wishes of people's hearts. When the wind blew, they chimed in a chorus. I wondered if the goddess in the heavens could hear them. Just then, Adrian suddenly said, Alara, if you betray someone's sincere heart, will the heavens help you win it back? He was asking the divine, and he was asking me. I turned to look at him and saw that his eyes had turned red, making him look fragile and on the verge of breaking. My answer was the rope that could save his life. I turned my head back. My gaze fell on the statue of the goddess. Compassionate, merciful, indifferent. I shook my head, and answered with a smile. No, the affairs of mortals. Why would the gods concern themselves with them? So, Adrian, everything that's happening now is what you've brought upon yourself. Don't you dare have any regrets. Because I don't. Adrian looked up at me, his long, narrow eyes filled with faint bloodshot lines. His lips trembled as he called my name. Alara. I really do regret it. He wanted to keep me. Or perhaps he wanted to atone for his sins. I blinked, but felt no trace of pity in my heart. I was once again certain that I no longer loved him. I once admired you, followed you, and wanted nothing more than to be your wife. But you pushed me, step by step, into becoming the heartless, loveless Mrs. Ford. And now that I've become Mrs. Ford, you want me to be your wife again. But, Adrian, how can everything in this world go your way? Just then, the sun began to set. The twilight colors washed over the goddess's face, mottled but beautiful. The wind blew, and the chiming of the wind chimes carried my voice to Adrian's ears. I said, Adrian, let's get a divorce. Adrian refused. I thought that by helping him deal with the outside rumors, solidifying his image as a devoted man, and turning Leo from an illegitimate son into a youthful mistake. And in return, he helped me secure my position as head of the company. We were even. I didn't need him anymore. And naturally, I didn't need to share a home with him. But he lost his mind. He went crazy, smashing everything he could in the house. I watched him, from beginning to end. I was cold, calm, but it was precisely that which made it more painful for him. He knew I was serious. He half knelt on the floor, holding my hand. He was emotional, but he tried to soften his tone, though he couldn't control the trembling in his voice. I can help you, Alara. Don't leave me. Whatever you want. Land, property, resources. I can give it all to you. Please don't go. Okay, I'm begging you. I really do love you. But I don't love you anymore. I was still calm, utterly unmoved. Adrian, for a long time now, even looking at you makes me sick. Adrian's face turned deathly pale. Tears finally fell from his red-rimmed eyes, drop by drop. They landed on the back of my hand. Warm, filthy. I pulled my hand away and wiped it clean on his shirt in disgust. I stood up and stepped on a shattered crystal glass. I remembered we had bought it in our first year of marriage. I had cherished it then. Now, I kicked it aside carelessly, word by word. So, stop being so pathetic. You're making me want to puke. In the end, the divorce went through smoothly, because I had evidence of Adrian's infidelity. Adrian was unwilling, so I threatened to sue. Adrian didn't dare to risk it, so I got an even larger settlement. Looking at it from another angle, in my marriage with Adrian, apart from the pain and sadness, I gained more tangible benefits than I had ever dared to imagine. I became the head of the Monroe family, a rising star in the business world. The connections and deals I once could only get through the Ford family, I could now get on my own. I no longer needed to rely on anyone. Adrian and Victoria destroyed my marriage, destroyed my most beautiful fantasies about love. But they gave me something more real in return. I should probably thank them. So, I gave Adrian a few photos, a small gift from me, obtained by a private investigator at great expense. I hoped they would both like it. Later, I heard news of Adrian at the office. Did you hear? Adrian cut off all of Leo's medical funding. Mrs. Ford took back the suburban villa and froze the supplementary credit card Adrian had given Victoria. Yeah, Victoria got kicked out of the villa, and then kicked out of the hospital because she couldn't pay the bills. No one would take them in. How pitiful. Pitiful. She took the kid and crashed Mr. Ford Sr.'s birthday party, having the kid call them Grandpa and Grandma, and Mommy and Daddy. Except the daddy wasn't Adrian, but Adrian's bastard half-brother. Turns out, after Victoria left, she got involved with the half-brother, got pregnant, and the half-brother, wanting revenge on Adrian, came up with the brilliant idea to make him think the kid was his. And Adrian actually believed it. Idiot. Good thing our CEO divorced him. He's bad luck. Totally. Our CEO is rich and beautiful. A rotten apple like Adrian doesn't deserve her. I just wonder how Adrian found out the kid wasn't his. Of course. I was the one who told him. I smiled, my eyes crinkling, as I walked past the group of gossiping employees. My work here is done. What were the photos? A man and a woman, heavily pixelated. Adrian's, white moonlight, and Adrian's brother. They make a good pair. I ship it.